Well, let's talk about you and then get to the music, man. So,
Okay.
When did you start doing hip hop? Like how?
I mean, I've written poetry for a long time, especially around 2008 during the housing crisis. I started writing a lot of political, mainly poetry. And I put a few kind of experimental hip hop things on a SoundCloud in around 2010, 2012, that phase. But it was all just very abstract, nothing super political. And I only had a couple songs that ever were. And one of them I played once at a gig when I used to live in the Florida Keys. And I had a guy come up to me, the obligatory drunk guy that needs to come up and put his arm around you and tell you what you should do with your career guy, with prophetic opinions, but doesn't remember where his drink is, as the quote is. And he came up and was like, man, your set was great, but you can't do that fucking political stuff. You can't do that.
Oh,
and for some reason that hit me. So I was like, why can't I? Why shouldn't I do that? And obviously I know why I shouldn't, but that stuck with me a lot. And it wasn't until honestly when COVID started rearing its head, right at the end of February. In fact, the last gig I got to play out with people was on my birthday. It was on February 28th. And shortly after that, we started lockdown, and obviously that's what I was writing about. But once that kind of uncertainty about the future started creeping in, and my wife works at a hospital, so it's not like she isn't exposed.
What kind of stories does she have?
Yeah, luckily it isn't too bad here. But that said, she didn't expect her job to turn into such an emotional caregiver for people that, when you hardly get to see someone's face and you're limited on visitation, you don't know what's going on, you need more support from a person than to just come in and draw your blood, and that's taxing, to say the least. But she's I'm sorry, I'm getting worked up. She's beyond incredible. One of the most compassionate, like glowing people I've ever known before. So she's definitely up to the task of doing what she's doing for people, and she it blows my mind. But once I started thinking about, how uncertain our future was, it didn't make sense to me to not say what I wanted to say. I was like, if there's ever a time to record songs of just anything I'm thinking about what's going on, why not? And I've been lucky because the backlash I've received has been next to none, in that I think I make it very clear what you're to expect. And I don't think anyone's going to take the time to listen to me cry about politics for 5 minutes to then come and talk to me about why they disagree. I've been very lucky in that I came to Twitter to find like-minded people, because I wasn't going to share my music with necessarily every friend and family member, because it's not the music I've always made, Once it became as direct and scathing as I could make it, I needed to find and kind of cherry pick my demographic, and Twitter was amazing for that. I've made friends and connections this year that not only understand and appreciate my music more than ever, but I can talk so freely with, and that's as it's very hard to find. And yeah, Twitter, and that's why I'm so afraid of watching my account just get nuked soon, because I don't. Especially when this next album comes out, I'll be really lucky if I get to keep having a platform after that. But I also never wanted to censor myself. Honestly, not playing the song I'm playing today is the only time I've ever decided it wasn't the right time for a song. And again, it's a song from March, but it's just a song that felt too inflammatory right now. And that's just not,
because of what's going on in the world, might not translate.
I don't want it to be misconstrued. Again, I've always been in favor of showing up on your leaders' doorsteps and demanding what we need, what is universally needed. But right now, the last thing I want is to be included in that, because that's right. as far from my heart as humanly possible.
Right.
So yeah, I made the decision to not do that. Instead, I was going to do 3 songs. I'm axing that and instead reading lyrics from something I wrote this week during my suspension. I've not done for anybody yet. So I'm pretty excited to do that. But
well, dude, the floor is yours, man.
Oh,
Great
thank you.
Put some tunes.
All right. Let me tune up just a little bit. But yeah, once I started recording, I mean, I didn't have an awful lot of equipment to work with that I could record with at home, especially having a toddler. My time to record is when he's asleep and I can't wake him up. So I started recording in my car. And
Yeah, and you make your albums on your phone.
Yeah, the mic I use is just a little Shure MV5 that can plug into your phone as well, plug into an iPhone. And I use GarageBand and do all my music is recorded in my car on my phone. And just mixed to try to sound like it's not. But I don't waste a lot of time with mixing and mastering because it's been more urgent to get the songs heard. And one day I'd like to be at a place where I feel like politically I can take a deep breath and mix some songs and not feel like they need that urgency isn't there, but I doubt it. I really doubt it.
I mean, your stuff sounds good. I mean, it's good. Like
Seriously, thank you.
But that being said, like I don't want to even say, I wouldn't have known this wasn't, because people make amazing stuff on their phones these days. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have a friend, and we were talking about this some off mic.
Yeah.
I was talking about my buddy Hamill. He's made a couple albums on now. Now, he's not making like instrumentation hip hop like you do. It's just one guy and a guitar. But it's just perfect. I mean, it's raw, it's lo-fi. But dude, some of my favorite records are raw and lo-fi. I mean,
and that's what the music I love. I don't like stuff that's too clean and too wet and too processed. So I would rather have it be out when it's the most relevant and a little fuzzy than sounding perfect and 2 months after the fact, you know? And that's kind of how I started. I was writing a song about the constant discourse. And as you know, the discourse is just constantly evolving and growing stronger. And by the time I looked, I had 24 songs that I'd written in the last couple months over between March and May. And for all the songs I've written and time I've spent as a musician, I had never bothered to package my original music and put it out before. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And I looked into distribution with DistroKid, shout out. And just for the surreal fact of getting to see yourself on Spotify,
what is DistroKid?
DistroKid is a music distribution service that I use that for a flat fee, you get all of your streaming royalties, such as they are, directly to you. And it's just a very, very simple process for uploading and getting your music distributed to their Apple Music. I mean, any international music platforms too.
It's kind of like CD Baby, Sound Exchange. It's kind of in that family.
It is. And I looked into a lot of different companies. And I mean, I've heard some people not have great experiences with them. Mine has been fantastic so far. It was about $20 for a year, I believe.
Okay.
And yeah, that covered my uploading, whenever I needed to upload. So yeah, it's been interesting again. Sorry.
Now you're making fractions of pennies. I mean, that's the other thing, man. Because I only have one stand-up album out, and I did it with a label, so they took care of all that stuff. But which
I love, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you very much. But the way they rip us off, I mean, I feel like that's got to happen next.
Yeah,
they got to figure out a way to make a platform where people can still use it like a Spotify, but the artists are not getting royally fucked. Yeah. Because what they're getting away with right now is absolutely insane. I mean, fractions. And I get it. We live in an era where it's like, album sales are never going to be what they were back in the 70s. Yeah. And musicians have adopted to that to an extent. And there's some technological advancements. There's only so much you can do. But these streams have value. Yeah. And the artist is getting next to nothing.
Exactly.
And companies are pulling in so much freaking money.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's gotta be an alternative to this. I mean, that's what's gotta happen next. Yeah. And I feel like, there's so many other ways to kind of get, some compensation in the online video space. And I'm like, well, what about the musicians and what about like the streaming services? That's got to be confronted next.
Yeah. Yep.
And and because I feel it's good comic, but
I guess it's good for me because at least for the music I make, it kind of keeps me honest, because you certainly can't grift making very, very radical political music. I have my music on Spotify so that it can be heard by more people. But if someone wants to contribute to what I do, it's Bandcamp is the place where I really put the most current updates. But yeah, the last thing I want to do is be trying to milk a living out of, especially this kind of music. That's the last thing I would do. And I realized very early on that the platforms I would get to have for saying pretty much whatever I want to say are few and far between, which is another reason I appreciate you having me so much, because it's a very, very big opportunity for me to get to have my stuff heard. And that's really the extent of what I want to do. I wouldn't want a label or anyone telling me that you have to change your opinions for anybody else. That's not why I'm doing it.
Well,
if I sell a couple albums, that's cool. I can, just buy surprise my wife with a dinner here and there or something. But it's, I don't know. I kind of like being in the niche I'm in. I'm very, very happy with that. I don't have any desire to, to really change that.
You're going to inevitably collaborate with other like-minded people.
And I did actually. It's funny you mentioned that. Awkward, the hip hop artist. He was one of the first people, other musicians that someone connected me with. And we spoke quite a bit. And he asked me to produce and write a chorus for the 10 Demands song, which was not only a really, really fun collaboration to do, but seeing the response it's gotten. And I'll never forget the day that Susan Sarandon tweeted about it and actually typed my name out. I ran around my job screaming, which for them, they didn't need to know the context. That's really nothing new for me. But it was still
every
one of those...
time they ask me to open a can, I run around.
Right, exactly. I was homeschooled. I didn't learn this.
Congrats on that, man.
That was really awesome. And he and I are actually working on an EP together right now as well. Because again, there are very few artists that do this. My list of potential collaborations peaks at Run the Jewels and JPEG Mafia was another rapper who was the first person I heard who you listen to and you think you understand his politics, and then he takes a jab directly at you as well, and you realize he's going after everybody. And that was the first person I heard do that. There's an album of his called Communist Slow Jams that I have yet to meet the person that can listen through there and find something they don't disagree with, but still it's universally brilliant. It really is. And he was one of the first people.
The strange famous folks have been on this show. Sage Francis, B. Dolan.
Awesome.
Folks like that. And then, there are, and I wish I was more hip to what's going on in hip hop. I'm really not, but there's like anarchist hip hop collectives.
Yeah.
There's so much cool stuff going on. And it's cool that you're putting your, like kind of putting your foot in the sand and saying, this is who I am. This is what I do. Because it's like your collaborative network is only going to expand.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk more rock, man. I want to hear some tunes. Let's do it. I'm going to mute myself and the floor is yours.
All right. So this is a song off of the album that I'm going to be putting out on Inauguration Day. That'll be called Inauguration Gift. This is the second song I actually wrote revolving around a Nancy Pelosi sample, which usually for this is called Sunday Morning Number 40. But yeah, here it is. Hey, we're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal and the world is not the same. You said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face. Nancy's gonna cut you a check too late. 2 years after your funeral's paid, 2 years after the grave, she'll be a little stronger for all of the dollars she saved. Watching you wake, watching you cling to your family, slipping away. Watch her do nothing but pray. Watch her condemn the Republicans, take them to brunch and then shrug it away. Now watch us be outraged half of a day, then pick a new hero to face our leaders. Think they could beat them playing the game they played since Pelosi had real human blood in her veins. They're all one and the same, sold off stock and they all maintained that the risk was benign and the virus was tame. So flash forward and 40 Sunday mornings fade, 250,000 people in its wake, and a cruise ship sailed today. so motherfucker don't shine a light in my face. No. With 40 Sunday mornings out for normal and the world is not the same. You said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face. You said you waited for a warning, but the warning never.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. That's great. That's a great song, dude. I love, whenever I like listen to hip hop, or especially like if it's being performed, like I'm always I love the way y'all and especially you did in this track where it's like there were some lines in there that were incredibly sincere, and also the whole thing was sincere, but like we're incredibly like cutting. But then there were lines in there that were also very funny. Like I laughed a couple, and they were very funny lines. And I, as a comedian, God knows I celebrate that very much. And I think it's like, as a listener, like sometimes you get in your head a little bit where it's like, am I allowed to laugh? Is it okay to laugh?
Yeah.
It's a funny line. No. Is it okay? And now, for me personally, now sometimes I'm a little bit on the receiving end of that because this year, because of some of the stuff I started doing with Jimmy on the Jimmy Dore show, I do rewrites of political protest songs. Like I did a rewrite of "Love Me, I'm a Liberal."
Oh yeah.
I did a rewrite of "Ain't Been Doing Nothing If You Ain't Been Called a Red," and I'll kind of notice people wondering if they're allowed to laugh, and it's like, no, you're still supposed to laugh. Yeah. I know I'm not doing stand-up right now, but these lines are meant to be funny.
Yeah.
And you're totally allowed to laugh. So
especially with this, there anywhere where I could inject a little moment of levity, even if it's dark humor, which is about all there is. If it didn't feel disrespectful to the rest of the message, I did, because it's all we have every now and then are those dark humor moments, So yeah, and there again an awful lot of music I hear now. It's hard ever since being so further radicalized this year. It's hard for me to enjoy a lot of the same music I used to, because sometimes I'll listen to someone that has this incredible writing ability and I get done with a song, I'm like, what did they really say? It's like, yeah, you made some cool play on words, but like, and it's not fair of me to demand everyone be, writing topical music, but just my awareness of things made some of the music I used to love that was just kind of doing whatever. It doesn't hit quite the same for me with some artists. And that's why the people that took the time to say more, like Run the Jewels and JPEG Mafia, and people that have something to say politically, it's so much more meaningful to me now, because as any stance you take is polarizing to somebody. And there's always someone to take issue with what you say. The most safe thing you think you could tweet, someone will show up to shout you down. Or someone made a great point once that you can go onto YouTube and look up any of the classics, look up like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, or look up For Elise, and there will be dislikes on that video. Someone took their time to go be like, fuck this song, Not that I'm equating myself
I've been waiting
but
years.
No matter what, nothing is exempt from that, and it's important to realize that. So.
Well, I will occasionally post like just like a picture of a sunset or something, and wish everybody a nice weekend. And even that, there are people that get offended somehow.
Yeah.
They get mad about that. I started doing this thing recently. I live near the water, and I started doing this thing recently where it's like I'll look out into the harbor, and I kind of realized that I have no freaking clue what any of these boats do. So I started like making these.
Oh, I love the nautical report. Oh my god, that killed me.
Yeah. I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of fucking cool. And someone got mad at that. They're just.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I know. It's just like it's just I don't know. It's pretty looking. How does this bother you? Like, what's
I know.
So, you got another tune for us?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I have one more and then something to read real quick. So, after I put out that political album, The Virus, which ended up being 24 tracks, about 90 minutes. I tried to take just a little step back for my own benefit for the sake of my marriage, because my wife was tired of me recording until 5 a.m., drinking coffee every night. And I made one song that was kind of a goof that was like a 50s doo-wop with kind of a nuclear winter theme to it. And so many people were like, you should do more of this. I would absolutely be here for an EP. And so I did. So I did 5 songs and just released it a few days before my suspension, called the Geiger Age. That is kind of a range of 50s styles in the end. Some doo-wop, some kind of lounge, and then one that feels a little bit more kind of old country folk, which is the song I'm about to do, which is the title track from the Geiger Age.
It was gone, blocked out by the smog, and if the smog ain't moving on, that sun is gone. Now my eyes have seen the horrors of industrial disease. My mama raised me telling tales about the trees, 'cause they were gone. If all my mama knew, the trees were gone. Roasted inside out, and ain't no soil fit to sprout. Those trees are gone. Now she had an optimistic streak, or maybe she was scared. Oh, bless her soul, my mama said the ocean would be spared, and now it's gone. By the time I reached the shore, it all was gone. I'm glad she didn't live to see the day that she was wrong, 'cause when I reached the ocean, it was gone, gone, gone.
Man, you gotta set up pipes, my friend. Damn, you can sing.
Thank you, man.
That's a cool freaking tune.
Awesome. Thank you.
So,
it's very different from the other stuff on there. That was one if there's any modern country that I love, it's Sturgill Simpson, especially for how willing he was to just start calling out the commercialization of country, them trying to label something as outlaw country when it's just the most homogenized, Nickelback crossover kind of pop material. And his stuff has that kind of, first of all, his lyrics are phenomenal, but that was one song I was like, originally it was a little bit slower, and I was like, you know what, I want to just try to go full Sturgill on this as much as I can, and I love that song. I was really happy with it.
Well, that's another area where people don't realize, because I lived in Nashville for a number of years, so I was always like, whenever someone's like, do you like country music? I'm like, first, define country music.
Exactly.
Because that is depending on who you are.
I love Patsy Cline.
Right. It's just like, if you're talking.
What was country western? I think was that cutoff. Because like Patsy Cline, Marty Robbins is one of my favorite artists ever, who did like Big Iron and El Paso and stuff like that. That's such a different kind of romantic western vibe to it. But
well, I mean, like Steve Earle, Cash. I mean, like all those guys, and a lot of there's still a lot of stuff that is branded outlaw country that in reality is just like roots country Americana music.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is lefty, a lot of it is anti-war, a lot of it, and people sometimes overlook the fact that like, oh, that's all part of Nashville too. Like that's not, like Nashville's not all just my dog, my truck, America. That's there. That's certainly there. But that's not all that's there. And
for sure.
I mean, I really got to tip my hat to folks like Jason Isbell and folks like the Drive-By Truckers that will keep on carrying that banner, like whatever metaphor you want to throw in there, to make that. And then folks like Todd Snyder, like the real outlaws that have been holding down the fort in East Nashville and places like that for a long time. And it's like, that's the Nashville I celebrate. And so, yeah, if someone asks me, do you like country music? I always have to ask, what exactly?
Exactly.
Define it.
Yep.
Because
when and where.
If you're talking about this pop infused, country inspired, Southern rock that is entering their hair metal phase as far as what they look like.
Really is.
I don't like that's garbage.
That's exactly it.
That is what it is. Like,
yeah.
Somebody else came up with that theory, and I forget who it was, but they're like the country, like the pop country world, which is like the easiest way to just sum it up. The pop country world, like the CMA world, however you want to brand it. They're like typically about 20, 30 years behind everyone else.
Yeah.
So like they're in their late 80s phase where it's like long hair, double bass pedals, and like really polished.
The snare still goes
yes!
this massive splash out. Like, you guys get the Def Leppard drummer just for this song?
Yes, they don't know. Honestly, a lot of those folks live in Nashville now too. No joke. And and so that's and people still buy CDs. I mean, I still buy vinyl, but like they still buy CDs. They don't even need the digital download card with it, and that's the phase they're entering. So it's like that stuff is just recycled Southern rock. Like, and it's all just the same idea. I mean, NPR did that segment where they played like 6 songs at the same time, and they had the exact same.
I know. Yep.
Anyway, all right, man. So what's the last?
The last thing, and it's funny. This was one of those things when I wrote these lyrics the other day. I could tell this is going to be one of those songs where I'm going to do 3 different versions with 3 different beats, and it's going to be so hard for me to find the one that I feel like really gives this justice. And I feel like, especially right now, it might be best to just do it straight. So I'm just going to read it straight. This is another one that will end up being on the album coming out on the 20th. Obviously, the last song I have to record for that album. This is called Lockheed Martin OnlyFans. I guess I was born with the curse of foresight. I knew Joe was only going to represent the war side. And that said, I just came to fight. You can keep the or flight. Save the surprise and the gasp when the shadow the fascists have cast is on your doorstep in the glow of your porch light. Save the surprise when the grid goes down and we go underground to lick wounds in the gloom of a torchlight. While up in the sky, a blimp glides by with a sign like New Year's 2022, brought to you jointly by Pfizer and Coors Light, while the centrists observe from a comfortable courtside. Right in the thick of the action behind a partition, we're in a morbid position, a plague of evictions born a comorbid condition of the cancer of wealth. I fantasize that I canceled myself, hands on your head with your best laid plans in the well. There are no more answers, questions go back on the shelf. Now all Joe's donors, a quick show of hands. How many of you sub to the Lockheed Martin OnlyFans? How many are loyalist patrons for the Raytheon Patreon? Occupy Iraq and send $1 million off into the great beyond. Coo yourself with a safety on. True to yourself in as much as you dutifully spew out of mucus of QAnon. You can't convince me the Capitol wasn't surrendered with every intention of digging us deeper down into the treacherous webbing of censorship, ebbing your speech and dissension so you can't hold Biden accountable, not in his mentions and not in the streets. Know to the end that Joe will defend the elite, that Joe won't embarrass McConnell, but Joe's not embarrassed if all of your children are hungry and weak, too hungry to speak. Joe is fresh out of empathy, fresh out of policy, but he'd love to know, what was your favorite ice cream flavor to eat? Back when you used to eat. I guess the road isn't rocky for people who thought we were free. They'll believe what they read, and Joe's here to lull them to sleep. Just counting us down by the dozens, the culling of gullible sheep led to the slaughter by media tyrants and government thieves. These are the leeches who stubbornly suck where there's nothing to bleed. These are the tumors that forced us to crawl on our knees. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 2008. One was condemned in 2016.
Fuck yeah, dude. Wow. If that doesn't inspire you, check your freaking pulse. Check your pulse if you don't feel.
And I think that's a big part of
man.
Thank you, man. I made a point to.
Are you going to have music under that, or how are you going to?
I am. You know, it's one of those. What I will probably end up doing is not an actual beat per se, because I want that to be able to be heard. And I don't want to make, no matter what, there's that changeover when you take a spoken word piece and conform it to music, that the flow has to be more rigid. And I feel like this works better, more conversational. And if there was just a little ambience underneath it, this is probably what's going to close that album out. I feel like it's a good place to.
Dude, I think that's awesome. I mean, hey man, if you want to try, I have a coffee can. You want me to go grab? No. But yeah, but no, I think that's a fantastic idea. Like keeping it like very minimal on that to really just because that's a freaking piercing piece, dude.
Thank you.
Just let the words, take over. That's awesome, and man.
A lot of these, no matter how many times I read it or do takes recording it, they'll get to an emotional point for me where I quit trying to hide that or keep that out of a take. In fact, there's a song on The Virus called Through the Eyes where it was a rough day and I sat down to work on the song, and when I listened to the beat, I just broke down, and I actually recorded it and sampled the sound of my own crying and looped it underneath the song. So the whole time there's just this sobbing going underneath the song. But between recording in the car where I'm in my garage and there's nobody around and being able to be as loud as I would like, and also knowing that, sorry, I think my mic just came undone a little bit there.
You're good.
There's
The chat's loving you, by the way. I'm peeking at that. Yeah, the chat loved that, especially that last piece. They
thank you.
Stuff.
Thank you. I mean, if you have time, I'll shut up and I'll do one more song. Actually, I wasn't going to, but I have a short one that I'd be happy to pull.
Dude, send us off. Yeah,
I'd love to.
If you're down for one more, send us off with one more.
Okay,
and
cool.
Then of course, after that, you got to tell everyone where to find everything.
All right.
So.
But what I was going to say, when I record in my car, especially this time of year, no matter what, it's cold. And I can see my breath when I'm doing vocal takes. So you can hear a lot of times that shudder is the fact that it's 27 degrees. I'm in multiple layers in my car, holed up, trying to record. This is a song off of The Virus, which it's weird to do without Nancy, but I sampled Nancy Pelosi's ice cream interview. And I have a back and forth with her in the beginning of the song, her explaining how the suffering of America's homeless give her nourishment, and that's how she gets all of her energy. So obviously I won't have Nancy with me on this one. This is called Speaker of the House.
The man decide to stand up for us, then watch them take him away. So I'd hate to break down your respect for the process, but the process won't be safe. Hi, I'm Nancy. I love ice cream, but not as much as watching people forced out of their homes. Watching people forced out in the streets to live alone, and knowing that I own every homeless set of bones. See, it's all more support for my hideous and ill-gotten throne, the weight of which was too much for you to bear alone, which is why you've ended up threadbare alone, kicked off your benefits and left to your own. See, the diner that you worked at was told it could open up its doors, but there's no clientele, and it's probably just as well because half of the staff didn't last, so they can't come to work anymore. You can't expect a corpse to pull itself through the door to flip omelets for $8 an hour anymore. So make your own food, clean your own floors, fake your own news, honey, fill a whole morgue. Get a film crew out front, but don't let them in the doors. Just keep it frontline heroes, America's soldiers, you know the score. God knows Joe knows the score. I watched a man decide to stand up for us, then watch them take him away. So I'd hate to break down your respect for the process. The process won't be safe. So stop telling me that the election's so important. Start telling Joe he needs to rein in his supporters. Oh, that's right, Joe can't even rein in his tongue behind his resin molars. Well, pardon me for asking for some faculties from someone who is vying to control us. I mean, the man is not quite yet speechless, but you could bet he's soulless. And if you thought he would stop the greatest threat that ever held a public office, you might have been Joe's equal in the ignorance department. But I can guarantee you we will finish what we started, a rabid coalition of activists and politicians, sex workers, educators, artists. Those of us that followed Bernie so close and fell the farthest, who will not falter until all of us are cared for, regardless of whether it would serve a profit. No, I am not a leader or a teacher or a prophet, but I am here to proudly say today's the day I start campaigning for the role of Speaker of the House that we will build from the bones of the old Congress. And when I say bones, I do not mean framework or stones. I mean literally bones of that old guard keeping us from progress. I mean tonight's the last dawn before things get their darkest. The calm before the storm and the slow before the harvest. Tonight's the last dawn before things get their darkest.
Nice, man. Nice. So where can everybody go to learn more about you and to check out your stuff?
On Twitter, I'm Jesse _Jett. That's, I mean, mainly all my updates are there. The most new music gets put on Bandcamp. I've kind of drug my feet with YouTube a little bit.
Which is it? Just jessejett.bandcamp.com?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And I have The Virus, that political record, as well as the Geiger Age up there right now. And Inauguration Gift, the next full-length political album, will be on Inauguration Day.
Nice. jessejett.bandcamp.com. Follow him on Twitter, Jesse_Jett. Jesse, thanks so much for doing this, man.
Oh, man, seriously, it was such a pleasure. Anytime. I loved it.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your